Welcome back, everyone, to the You Did This for Why podcast. Coming to you today from way down yonder on the Chattahoochee. I'm Steve, and with me, as always, is my co host.
I'm G, and if Mike Vick was gonna make dogs fight, he should have made fucking little shithead terriers fight, because fuck those dogs, they don't deserve the same rights as other dogs.
I was thinking about that, and I was like, have some imagination, Mike. Like, do monkey knife fights or something. I've seen a video of a monkey with a knife, and it was terrifying.
Alright? Like, strap a hammer to an alligator and see what that can do or something.
Right? Let's do some battle bots if you're going to, go to prison for that. Anyway, one thing I did want to add from our very first episode, the Mr. Cruel, I happened to be flipping through YouTube and saw an Australian, like one of those Discovery ID sort of Entertainment Tonight kind of shows, where they brought in a forensic detective from the US who used like mapping technology on all the locations where everything happened in that case. Every single one of them was right next to an electrical substation, which is kind of leading them to believe now that he was probably affiliated with the electrical company in some sort of way. So I just found that interesting. So don't give up, folks. I'm sure the dude's still out there somewhere.
And, hopefully they catch him, um, because, dear God, what a fucking degenerate. But if
Agreed.
not, at the same point, there is also a
I would,
chance he's dead at this point, which I feel like I'm also somewhat fine with that as long as it was a violent end.
yeah, I just would still like for him to be identified, at least so his
And
families have some kind of closure. You know what I
some
mean?
sort of
I would
closure,
look
yeah.
next to an electrical substation. Statistically speaking, he's probably next to one.
I will say, if I ever move to Australia for whatever reason, I can tell you exactly where I'm not going to live now. So,
Yeah, yeah. Lower plenty.
anywhere near a substation at this point. Fuck that shit.
I'm living out in the bush, baby. No electricity. Yeah, so today's story is absolutely bonkers. I can't believe this actually happened in real life. It's one of my favorite stories. And I was looking for something to do. And then I remembered this one and was like, holy shit. Yep, that's it. That's the one.
Well,
So,
I'm ready to get into it, see what's going on.
all right, you got your helmet on. You're definitely going to need it for this episode.
And you know what? I lost my helmet when I was 5, so.
This is going to hurt. So, April 7th, 1994, FedEx Flight, FedEx Express Flight 705 departed from the Memphis, Tennessee airport. It was scheduled to go to San Jose, California, carrying express packages. The whole trip was supposed to take about 10 hours, 5 hours there, 5 hours back, landing back in Memphis, to reload and do the same thing tomorrow. Conditions were clear. The people that were supposed to be on that plane were three people. You had a pilot, a co pilot, and your flight engineer.
All right.
So,
So
I mean,
already
this is
sounds like it's going to be an air disaster. I'm ready for this.
Well, this is scheduled. You know what I mean? FedEx is incredible logistics, actually. I mean, I remember having packages picked up in Houston, and they were in like Calgary, Canada, the next day. It was insane. I just don't understand how they do that. So the first
Black
person
magic.
to something like that, yeah, they bend and make laws for themselves. That's exactly what they do. But I digress. So the first person to get to the plane was 39-year-old flight engineer by the name of Andy Peterson. And he gets there, and he's got 5 years of experience with FedEx, so he's done this before. And as soon as he comes in, he realizes there's somebody else there in the jump seat. A guy that introduces himself as Auburn Calloway. And he basically explains that he's just taking the jumper seat to San Jose, to go visit family. And, Andy's like, all right, cool. And there was nothing weird there. So they say their pleasantries, and Peterson goes into the cockpit to start his, pre check. And so the way that works is you got your pilot and your co-pilot at the two sticks, and then behind them to the right-hand side against that wall is an instrument panel that has all the extra altimeters and like where you can dump the fuel, that kind of thing. And so he's checking all that stuff out, and he notices that the button or the breaker for the CVR, which is the cockpit voice recorder, is turned off, like it's come out of position.
So this is the airplane equivalent of the police turning off their body cam because the black box is off. Is what I'm gathering from that.
And he doesn't really. He thinks it's weird. He's never seen that before, but he doesn't freak out about it. So shortly after that, the pilot and the co-pilot arrive, and the pilot was 49 years old. His name was David Sanders. The co-pilot was 42 years old, and his name was James Tucker. And they come in, they see Calloway in the jump seat. They have the same conversation. Hey, what you doing here? Blah blah blah. Well, Tucker, the co-pilot, looks at a guitar case that Calloway brought with him, and he asks him like, "Hey, do you play?" And Calloway says, "Huh, I play at it," which is the proper response for a guitar player.
I will say I play at it is definitely one of those responses where if you said it, I would think I'm having a stroke. So
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like something like a lead guitarist would play because they're what 6 strings, 3 fingers, and an asshole. But
it does sound like something someone who's about to play Wonderwall would say. I will give him that.
yeah, he does seem like a Wonderwall kind of guy, doesn't he? So while Tucker and Sanders are talking to Calloway, Peterson goes back in again, and he noticed that thing's popped out again, the CBR, and so he pops it back into place, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna watch that closely. If that thing pops out again, I gotta call maintenance." He's like, "I'm not gonna call maintenance just yet, but if that happens again, I'm gonna call maintenance." Which again was a little weird to him, but not enough to be like unsettling. You know what I mean?
Right. He's like, oh, that's a little odd, but
Just a bit
to be
weird.
fair, I feel like on the list of priorities, the CVR is probably pretty low. So
Yeah. And
at
so
least it's not like the fucking altimeter or the
while the pilots are
gyroscope.
talking, Callaway basically he was actually supposed to be part of the crew of this flight, but it got rescheduled. He was supposed to be the flight engineer doing what Peterson's doing in there. But the last flight that they took, they exceeded their flying hours, their time or whatever, by 1 minute. So he wasn't eligible. Like he had a rest period that he had to do before he flies again. And so that's why he's hitching a ride.
Right.
So Tucker, the co-pilot, was a 10-year veteran of FedEx. He'd been there for a while. Previously, he had taught like how to fly this exact aircraft, the DC-10, which is a huge plane, by the way. Like if you don't know what a DC-10 is, it's the big FedEx Express planes. So
It's a big
it's a
ass
new
cargo
pilot,
plane.
the big ass cargo plane. And Peterson, the flight engineer, and Sanders, the captain, they knew each other because they had flown before to like Russia or something once. So everybody kind of knows everybody. They're all veterans of the industry.
All right.
Also,
So this is
turns out that
definitely set up for fun happenings.
oh, for sure, for sure. So it turns out also that Tucker and Sanders both of the pilots, were both ex-Navy pilots.
Oh well, you know what? At least the plane's in good hands. Cause
I mean, I feel like yeah, they're qualified. You know what I mean?
I feel like the only
And
person
so
you could have that would be a more qualified pilot than that is fucking Sully Sullenberger or some shit.
I would say Amelia Earhart, but we all know how that ended. So the plane takes
Well,
off. The
to be
weather's
fair, we
clear.
don't know how that ended, actually.
Mm, I actually saw a thing where they think they found her on some island or whatever, but I don't necessarily buy into all of that. That's some ghost hunter shit. You know what I
I
mean?
bet the crabs got her. She probably fell in the ocean and then the crabs got her. That's my
And
best
so, just a
guess.
little bit of background on Callaway. Callaway was actually a Stanford graduate. Like he was super smart. He was also a Navy pilot, and he was really good at his job. But when he started at FedEx, they put him as a flight engineer and not a pilot for whatever reason. And they don't really go into why, but he just ended up as a flight engineer, which I'm sure probably doesn't make as much money, doesn't have as much prestige.
Uh, Almost definitely not. But at the same
And I
time, I
mean,
feel like the flight engineers are probably just as important to the safety and the well-being of the flight as the pilots are.
well, you know what? Neither of those two things has happened
Well,
because
I tried to
when
give them
when
some
they get,
credit.
I know, right? When they get to altitude, Tucker is flying the plane because Sanders is like, all right, do you want to fly there and I'll fly back, or you want to do it the other way around? And Tucker is like, I'm never going to not say no to that. So they decide that Tucker, the co-pilot, is going to be flying. And so Tucker's, ascends. He's manually. He gets to altitude. He's leveling out just outside of the Memphis airport. And then Peterson, the flight engineer, remember he's sitting sideways, kind of
Right.
sees a blur as Calloway comes into the cockpit. And he's thinking, all right, yeah, dude came to chat. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's one of us. And then he takes a framing hammer to the dome.
Well, shit, this took a drastic turn real quick.
It pretty well obliterates him. I mean, he's still alive, but he's not knowing what's going on.
I mean, to be fair, if you take a framing hammer to the fucking dome, I don't expect you to know much of what's going on.
You know what a framing hammer is, right?
Oh yeah,
It's
no,
it's like the little sledgehammer.
I've definitely taken a couple of those to the knee before, just on accident.
Yeah, yeah, not a great feeling. So
Definitely
he
not
gets,
something
I
I'd
mean,
want to be
just
smacked in the face with. I will say that.
cracked in the head. So all of the people in the cockpit are like, "What the hell is going on?" All of a sudden, right? They thought he was just coming up there to talk. So Calloway takes the hammer and hits Tucker, the guy that's flying the plane, who's seated on the right side of the cockpit. He hits him in the left side of his head with force, enough that it knocks him out for like 45 seconds, he said. And that
Damn.
he was like awake, but not awake. Keep in mind, flying the plane. And so they're just kind of like, at this point, right?
Right.
So Sanders, the pilot, is like, oh shit, hell no. And he turns around just as Calloway starts wailing on him with the hammer. He also takes one of the dumb. So far, all three of these guys have taken a shot to the head with the framing hammer.
But
This all happens in
you
the space
got
of
to give
seconds.
him some sort of credit for efficiency and accuracy if he managed to hit all three people in the head that quickly.
Well,
Like,
yeah, here's the thing. Turns out that Calloway was an expert martial artist, is what they described him as.
well, that
So
tracks.
physical confrontation, yeah, wasn't something he was scared of. He also, that guitar case that he brought, much like El Mariachi, he opened it up and inside was, guess what? A bunch of hammers and a spear gun.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, so he brought those onto a plane as his luggage.
I want to. Why do you think he needed more than one hammer? That's my question. I feel
What
like
the fuck's with the spear gun?
two, three hammers tops is really all you need. If you're breaking
It
hammers on
was,
people's faces, there's an issue there. One, your
he had
hammers are shit.
multiple,
Two, their skulls are insane. That's fucking what.
right? Well, I think you're going to find out one of those things is true. Um,
And then the spear gun, was he hunting Moby Dick? What the fuck's going on with that?
no, exactly. So after Calloway wails on the pilot for a while, enough to get him stunned a bit, he goes back to the back to his guitar case and grabs that spear gun. He comes back to the cockpit with it, screaming at him that he's going to kill everybody if they don't do exactly what he says.
Look,
So this is
I
going
don't
from
mean to
just,
be the bearer of bad news here, but if you take out the pilots, everybody's dying.
mm-hmm,
I don't think he thought
yeah,
that one through that well.
right. So as he's pointing the spear gun, Peterson, who is at the, again, seated sideways at his instrument panel, it's fucked up, but he looks and sees the spear gun. So he just reaches out and grabs with both hands the spear part of it because it sticks out a little bit from the end. So he gets a hold of the spear. So even if he shoots it, it's going to slow down a little bit. You know what I mean? He's trying to do the best. He's trying to wrestle it out of the guy's hands. Well, at this point, Sanders, the pilot, who is the last one to get hit, but not as bad, he gets up and they both grab Calloway and they're trying to push him out of the cockpit. Well, at this point, Tucker wakes up and suddenly remembers that he used to be a combat instructor for the Navy for pilots flying A4 fighter jets.
That's a pretty handy thing to remember in this scenario.
I don't remember, but I want to say for like 12 years he did that. Like he flew for like 12 years in combat missions. And so his first reaction, once he kind of comes to, is to just jerk the stick back and go straight up into the air, which takes those three guys, throws them against the back of the plane. And so now they're
Right.
in the what they call the galley area, that middle area. and they've just hit the back wall because the plane's going straight up. Keep in mind, Calloway's still got a hammer. He's still fucking swinging at everybody. They're all just trying to defend themselves and get the hammer out of his hands. But once again, he's better at it than they are. So even 2-on-1, he's still winning.
At this, I I'm just how do you how do you go about planning this out? What was the thought process here? Is like I'm gonna bring a fuck ton of hammers and a spear gun on this plane, and I'm gonna
We'll
make
get,
them listen to me.
we'll make them listen to me. We're gonna get to that. But again, like I said, Tucker was a combat instructor, and so he his interview was him thinking of it like a dog fight. He's like, you engage the enemy bogey, you find an advantage, make a mistake, and then you kill the bogey. That's what he's thinking.
I mean,
I'm
seems
surprised he could think. I can surprised he can remember what high school he went to at that point. You know what I mean?
right. Framing hammer to the fucking forehead. I'd be hard pressed to tell you how many fingers I have. I'm gonna be honest.
Okay, so let's assess the situation. He's bleeding profusely because he took a hard one. Peterson, the one of the shots that he took from the hammer was enough to rupture his temporal artery. So he's
Right.
just gushing blood out the side of his shit.
Alright, folks, welcome back. Minor technical issues. As you can tell, I sound way better than I did 5 seconds ago, but, yeah, here we are to continue. So,
All
take it
right.
away, C.
Okay, so when we last left our heroes, the plane was going down into a nosedive, and Tucker reduced the throttle and turned it and got it leveled parallel with the ground. So the plane finally is stabilized. Back in the back, the two guys finally get Calloway down again and they pin him. Keep in mind, this whole fight looked like a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu match between three people
And one of
covered
them's
in
got a
blood.
hammer.
And one of them's got a hammer, and they can't seem to take it away from him because he's got a strong grip. And any moment that he gets, he cracks him with a hammer wherever he can hit him. And so they're just taking shots to their different parts of their body as they get bounced around this aircraft the entire time. It is insane to me to think about fighting like that. That's just that's fighting on crack. But once they get Calloway down, Sanders, the pilot, finally disarms him and starts cracking him back with the hammer without hesitation.
I mean, as
And
one would.
and right in the interview, Sanders is like, I knew I had to hit him, and I wasn't trying to kill him, but I hit him as hard as I could.
I just
So
picture he sounds like
I
Forrest
love that
Gump.
explanation.
I can't
Oh
prove it,
no
but
no! He's very well spoken like a Navy veteran. Yeah, you can tell he was in the military. He's like, I wasn't trying to kill him, but I hit him as hard as I could. So there was
I
that
wasn't trying to
implication.
kill
I
him,
was like,
but if he had died,
yeah,
I would not have been sad about
I,
it.
that is 100% what he was saying right there, and I just kind of love that. But so at this point, Tucker in the front again, bleeding out his head, got seriously busted. Radios the Memphis airport and tries to give him the best report that comes out of his mouth. And the air traffic controller that's listening to him is like, wait a second. He heard the words hijacking. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to give you, you're going away from the airport. I'm going to give you a vector to come back to the airport. And Tucker's like, yeah, man, no, that's totally cool.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's get back there. That's
Yeah. And so, despite having just been given a vector, Tucker just does way more crazy shit, and he maneuvers the plane immediately down again to 3,000 feet was his plan. And he explained his plan was that if you get below 3,000 feet, if they bust a window open or something, the cabin's not going to depressurize, which is kind of smart once again.
smart man, yeah. Especially since there's a motherfucker with a guitar case full of fucking hammers. Again, why the fuck do you need more than one?
And the spear gun. I still don't get the spear gun.
Well, that seems like something probably easier to get a spear gun on a plane than it is an actual firearm. Something to give you
Yeah.
leverage from a distance. I understand that to an extent, but at the same
And-
time, why fucking hijack the plane in the first place?
yeah. Who fucking knows, man? So Tucker being his crazy ass up in the front while he's doing this, he like radios air traffic control again. Keep in mind again, bouncy castle on the back of the plane because he just changed directions again completely. And now those guys are just like, bam, hit a wall and just start fighting again.
Motherfucker, we just
Um,
got him pinned. Why are you
yeah,
against us?
we fucking just got him. So Tucker on the radio requests an ambulance. He's like, you're definitely gonna want to bring an ambulance. And at that point, he also was like, we're gonna need armed intervention, like an armed intervention in that industry or whatever is like bring the fucking SWAT team. Like
Get the air
this,
marshals. Get the
it's
fucking.
very serious. Yeah, they're gonna need to storm the plane as soon as we land because this motherfucker's serious.
He's got a spear gun and 70 hammers. Bring whatever we have that's equivalent to that in guns.
Dude, I don't know how many he had, but everything I watched was like at least 6 or 8.
Again, if
You know,
you
he came
need more,
prepared.
okay, look, if you hit one
Yep.
of them and the
Right.
hammer breaks, you have a second one. If that one breaks, you have a third. If you need more than 3 hammers to complete this mission, you were fucked from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, let's just assume 1 hammer breaks per person. I don't know, man. But
And then again,
again,
if your hammers are
we'll get to that.
breaking 1 per person, get them from somewhere other than fucking Alibaba next time. Go to Home Depot.
And so at this point, air traffic control's looking at it and they're like, okay, he's still definitely moving away from the airport. Like he didn't listen to shit I just said. And so they're concerned about the whole thing. And so what does Tucker do?
I'm gonna go with
Changes
he dips the
direction
plane.
in
Oh,
the
hey.
opposite direction, which flings him from one wall to the other all of a sudden. So fights just started again, even though everybody bleeding. It's terrible, man. I can't even imagine that.
It was like a UFC fight that got canceled for the amount of blood. It's just looking like it's a red
For
plane
real.
now. Like it's a red plane.
Okay. So the estimate I read that this whole thing started about 26 minutes into the flight, and we're 3.5 minutes into this whole thing right now.
This has only
So
been 3.5 minutes.
of the from the first hammer blow till now, we've been 3.5 minutes. That's how
That is.
rapidly and how like violently that plane got jerked around for one, and for two, how bloody those guys are. That was a brutal fight.
I will say, as far as fights go, 3.5 minutes is a fucking long time, especially
Mm-hmm.
if the other motherfucker has a hammer.
And they're all starting to show it because remember, even Callaway's taking multiple shots to the dome. Sanders was trying to not kill him with the hammer as he quitted, which so everybody's got a head injury at this point.
This is like it's sideshow Bob. Like he pulled up with a guitar case full of fucking hammers and a spear gun. Like this
Well,
dude,
at this point, Callaway gets the idea to just start biting folks, which sometimes can be a tactic in that sort of situation. I guess I don't know. I've never been in a hammer fight on a plane, but whatever, man.
I will say I have gladly never been in a hammer fight on or off a plane.
Right? No, me either. And I just don't want to, man.
No, it just
So,
sounds like hell.
so the two guys in the back start yelling for Tucker, the guy that's flying the plane, to come back and fucking help. They're like, just put it on autopilot. Just come back and help us. And he's like, I don't think that's a good idea.
All right, Captain
If
Ahab.
I do that, who's flying the plane? And they're like, just put it on autopilot, which apparently is a thing in planes. I thought that was fictionally made up, but I guess it'll maintain your altitude or whatever.
Well, I imagine it's
So-
just like cruise control, but for an airplane.
So he does that, and he goes to get up, and he realizes, wait a second, I've lost feeling to the entire right side of my body from a massive head injury.
I will say,
I can
getting
barely
hit in the
see.
face with a hammer so hard you basically have a stroke is it kind of impressive that you're still flying a fucking plane after that.
For real. And honestly, I would have opened this episode with Cannibal Corpse's hammer smash face if I didn't think I was going to get sued. But I mean, I also kind of love Corpse Grinder. I've heard he's a nice guy. Like, he has like a one of those claw machine addictions, and so
It's
he compulsively. And you were talking about the lead singer of one of the hardest death metal bands ever. All the toys that he gets out of it, he donates to hospitals, to like children's hospitals.
hey, you know what? At least his addiction
So
is giving back to the
isn't that
community in some way.
isn't that adorable for a man named Corpse Grinder?
His name's Corpse Grinder. His this is just I just imagine him like full fucking stage get up just at a claw
Oh yeah,
machine. Like,
no
I gotta
props
win
to
this
Cannibal
teddy
Corpse,
bear.
because I think they were the ones too that had the song "I Have Skulls and Guns in My House" was one of the songs that the
And then they
guitarist
had
wrote.
actual
And
skulls and
then
guns,
yeah,
yeah.
they found skulls and guns in his house. Which, I mean, don't stop self snitching, man. Like what your lawyer boy said. So even like with his cracked dome and like half of his body, he goes to get up and then realizes that the autopilot's not quite ready. And so he's like, oh shit. So he has to sit back down. He has to turn that on. And then he gets up and he actually goes back to the back. And when he gets back there, he notices that there's blood everywhere.
I mean, yeah, I would
Uh,
assume.
all the packages that were in there have just been scattered. What little bit was in the galley area, because most
Yeah.
of that's in the cargo hold. I can't even imagine what that shit looks like.
Hey, by the way,
But
imagine a fucking FedEx truck delivers your package and they're like, yeah, we had a small incident on the plane. Don't worry, the box is covered in blood. The situation has been handled. It's like, what the fuck do
well,
you
no,
mean?
the thing is, I don't think those would be covered in blood. Those would be back in that tight with bouncy cargo that weighs that much in the back.
You're right.
I
It's
mean,
just,
I mean, the piloting skills here are just incredible.
oh yeah, just fucking insane levels of plane control.
Yeah. So again, air traffic control is like, what the fuck are you guys doing? You're still going away. So they think that the hijacking is still happening, which I guess they're technically right.
You're technically
One of the
correct, yes.
Yeah. So one of the things that Tucker noticed when he came back there was the seat covers, like on the jump seat, had been ripped off completely. So like somebody grabbed a hold of that, was trying to hold on, and just ripped the whole seat cover off.
Well, you know.
He also notices on the ceiling of the aircraft there's bloody footprints. So somebody was standing up on the ceiling when the plane was inverted, trying to hit somebody with a hammer, which is insane to me. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that.
And yeah, no, honestly, kind of impressive, I will say.
And keep in mind, this really happened. So at that point, they finally get three of them get Calloway down. They get him kind of restrained. There's no real way to restrain him. They don't have like zip ties or any shit like that. No rope or nothing. So they're just holding him down. But they've got him pretty winded because Sanders came back and helped beat the shit out of him. Or I'm sorry, Tucker came back and helped beat the shit out of him. So the situation appears to be all cool, right? So at that point, they decide that Sanders, the actual captain, the pilot, should be the one that lands the plane. And he was like, yeah, all right, whatever. He goes up because obviously Tucker's fucked up. So he goes up and gets in the, cockpit or whatever and starts flying the plane. At this point, they're about to start, they're getting close to the Memphis airport because Sanders actually gets the vector and goes to where they tell him.
I will say, it's just like, yeah, we got some shit going on, and they're like, oh, okay, just, change course to this vector, come back to the airport, we got you. And he's like, yeah, I have a couple ideas first. Like,
Right. So at this point, Sanders realizes a few things. One, they're grossly overweight because those planes are designed to be just packed with fuel
right.
and to burn that fuel so it'll make it easier to land. Because, of course, the heavier your plane is, the
Yeah.
harder it is to stop. So runway length becomes an issue there.
Especially, I would assume the Memphis airport probably doesn't have as long of a runway as somewhere in, like, California would, or whatever. Like,
Yeah, so this stat that I saw there was the plane was 35,000 pounds like over the landing recommendation, with still nearly 84,000 pounds of fuel still in its tanks.
Damn.
That's a lot of fuel, dude.
That's a
I mean, I
lot
guess
of fucking fuel.
you're flying all the way to California. You don't need a 5-hour nonstop trip.
Oh,
You'd
yeah.
have to have a lot of fuel. And the problem is they didn't get very far from the airport, and they're trying to land at the same airport, so they're landed heavy.
It's
And
definitely
they
one of
can't
those
dump the fuel out
situations where you're like, well, shit.
because apparently, I didn't know this, pilots can do a Dave Matthews and just dump the fuel out the plane while they're flying, which doesn't seem safe at all, but whatever.
I mean, I feel like if you're over the Atlantic or whatever, then the only thing that's fucking up is the ecosystem. And as we all know, nobody cares about the ecosystem.
No,
So,
I think ExxonMobil's taking care of that.
yeah, we got fucking BP.
We got people working on that. You know what I mean?
All
So in
those
the back,
damn
Callaway's
Dawn
still trying to get
commercials.
free. Like Callaway wakes up again, and he's pinned down on the ground on his back. They're both on top of him. Everybody's just like at this point, right?
You're right.
So
Like,
Callaway doesn't have a hammer now because Sanders took it away from him, cracked him in the dome a few times. But again, there are hammers just laying around.
now,
So he
me
starts
as a
dragging
humble peasant, I would recommend getting rid of that guitar case as quick as possible.
as quick as possible. Well, now the guitar case is open, so all the hammers are everywhere now.
Oh yeah, that
And
is
so he
fair.
just starts. He's got two dudes laying on top of him. He starts sliding himself backwards with the two dudes on top of him. His whole idea was to get to that jump seat to use that as something to hold on to stand up. And both the guys that were laying on top of him knew if he got over there and stood up, it was done. Like, and at that point, they were just thinking, we cannot let him get to the cockpit. You know, this dude's hopefully going to land this plane. We're all going to get out of this. But Callaway's not giving up. At this point, he's trying to like gouge people's eyes out. He's doing whatever he can. And again, they both knew that he was slowly gaining the advantage here.
I will say, I don't know if you've ever had to like fucking tackle and pin down somebody who's got just an insane amount of blood on them. It's fucking hard. That shit is slippery.
It's slippery.
Like,
It's very slippery.
motherfucker might as well be
Yeah.
covered in baby oil. Like that shit is fucking impossible. So
That's my
it's
favorite
not
thing about
surprising
Charlie
to me
Bronson.
that it's taken like 3 fucking people to hold this guy down.
Because wasn't Charlie Bronson like the longest incarcerated prisoner in British history or whatever? And he would take butter and just cover himself in butter, strip naked and taunt the guards until they fought him, which I found fantastic. And
It's
if you got a
just
life
like,
sentence, at least make it interesting.
you're right. If you got a life sentence, you might as well just cover yourself in butter and fight the prison guards at that point.
Yeah,
'cause-
there's a great scene in that movie Bronson with Tom Hardy in it that where he does that. But okay, so now we're he's gone to the front. We got the plane up. It's at 7,000 feet where it should be. So he went from that 3,000 feet, which was low, to keep the windows from, to keep it from depressurizing if a window gets busted. And now he's climbed to a better flying height. And so at this point, Sanders is in the front. He hears the shit that's going on behind him, that Callaway may be winning again. Like he woke back up. And so he decides to put it on autopilot. Air traffic control is talking to him, but he doesn't give a shit at this point. And he was like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go back there and I'm going to kill him. That's what he said. And I was like, remember, this is the guy that was like, I hit him. I didn't want to kill him, but I hit him as hard as I could. It's that guy.
Well, plans change.
Right. So Sanders goes back to the back, fully intending to kill Callaway at this point. And Tucker, who actually, again, his ears not doing great. Like it got bludgeoned off pretty much. Tells Sanders, hey man, I think we got him. And Sanders looks at him and is like, are you sure? Like, are you 100% sure? And they're like, yeah. And so Sanders reluctantly goes back, gets in the cockpit, and air traffic control asks him, they're like, is it under control? And his response was, it's sort of under control.
Kind of, maybe, sort of. We'll see how
as good as it can be at the moment. You know what I mean?
We'll see what happens in the next 5 minutes, but for now, yeah.
Well, then he looks at where he's at in his instrument panel, and he realizes that because he put it on the autopilot mode, the plane's coming in too fast and too high to land on the vectored runway that they gave him, which was runway 9. So he's definitely not landing on runway 9. He already knows that's not even an option. So he looks and he knows the airport because again he's been there 20 years.
Right.
And so he just decides that he's like, I'm going runway 36 left. And air traffic control is like, okay, because we don't know what the fuck you're doing up there. You've been going in every direction possible for the last 30 minutes. We have no idea what you're doing. So yeah, we'll clear the runway for you. But the problem was, as he was coming into the airport, runway 36 left was perpendicular to him. It was at a right angle.
Right.
And he was coming in fast. And so what he had to do at that point, in order to make that, was your Grand Theft Auto maneuver. Where you just
the flip a
cut
bitch. All right.
you cut the plane real hard to the right, go out. So what he did was he turned hard to the right, tipped it, almost winged to the ground, flew parallel to the runway, flipped it back around again and made a U-turn, leveled it out, and came back into the runway at a very high rate of speed. So keep in mind the guys in the back still fighting. They had Callaway under control until they started bouncing against the walls again. Because I almost feel like that's almost hurting his team.
Yeah, I feel like you yell back to him at least. Be like, hey,
Yeah.
heads up.
Hard right. Don't listen, Callaway.
Plug his ears. Plug his ears.
Yeah, right. And so the whole time that he's doing this, all the alarm panels are like, pull up, pull up. They're just yelling all those car things that you get. Your door is ajar. All that shit's yelling at him. And so he just whipped the UE.
Buckle to unmute audio.
Yeah, exactly. He's coming in and he knows that this is his one shot to land this fucking horrible flight. And so there was another guy in the documentary I watched. His name was Teague. He was a paramedic. And he said he remembers coming up on the scene and he saw the plane and he saw it like turn. He's like, the wing was pointed at the ground. And I was like, you shouldn't do that. And so then it turned and came in to land. But when it landed behind the terminal. So he couldn't see. And there was smoke from a construction site behind it. And he's like, oh, the plane blew up. You know what I mean? Like,
well, this
shit,
has made my job harder.
Exactly. So that's what he's thinking when he's, him and his ambulance or whatever going over there. But I just found that interesting that he was just like, oh, shit. So back in the back, Callaway makes his final push. He's trying to grab a hammer, and they're trying to stop him. Everybody's exhausted. So what Sanders did was he idled the plane. When he came in, normally he was saying that you come in like full bore or with a good head of steam when you land because it just makes it easier. And so he basically just cut the engines and just was going to kind of glide on in there because he knew if he didn't, with that much weight and that length of runway, he probably
that
was going to
inertia's
overrun
taking his ass over the edge.
Yeah, he knows he's going to, this is the 20-year veteran, you know what I'm saying? He knows that he's going to overrun that runway if he does that.
If I do this the normal way, then we all fucked.
We are all going to die. Life is like a box of airplane crashes. But, so they're fighting in the back still. And Peterson, the flight engineer, again, ear all fucked up, bleeding out of his head, finally gets hold of a hammer. And they're both like Brazilian jiu-jitsuing him. And Tucker, the guy that was flying earlier, says, you got to hit him, Andy. You got to hit him. And Andy looks at him and is like, what? Like, he's just not a violent dude. And the interview that I watched, it was lovely because Peterson was like, he looked at me like a father figure, like a dad would, and was just like, hit him. And so Peterson
you
was
gonna
like,
have to smack him with that hammer if you want us to get on the ground.
Right. And keep in mind, none of these guys talk like that. It was amazing to me, especially with like Tennessee, Arkansas area.
It's like Tennessee, you've been hitting the head with a hammer. Like I expect you to talk like Forrest Gump.
Sound like that. But no, they were all fairly well spoken, like educated people. I was like, huh. And so Peterson starts hitting him, but he's really got no energy. But he is hitting him. So Callaway's taking shots from a framing hammer. Sanders is just about to land the plane, and he's just hoping that the tires don't explode or he doesn't overshoot the runway, because that was his concern too, coming in with that much weight at that speed. It'll blow up your tires. And when that happens, you'd have no control. Like, you're coming in. you're coming in at hundreds of miles an hour. It's not good.
You've lost like
So,
the only thing that's given you a good source of friction. Like,
and about our only good news so far, Sanders actually managed just to land that plane with about 300 meters on that runway to spare. So, incredible feat of aviation right there.
oh, definitely.
Like,
That's
that
fucking
is just this
insane.
whole thing. Both of those pilots, the fact that they could fly a plane like that was incredible to me. And so the paramedic finally gets there and he's like, oh, the plane hasn't exploded. Sanders gets up and comes to the back, and the guys are like, open the door. And so he opens the door and then pops that ramp thing, the big inflatable ramp out.
Yeah.
Well, the SWAT teams, paramedics are coming. First one to get there was Teague. And he was saying that trying to go up that ramp is covered in like baby powder.
Oh yeah.
So
Just
he's
sliding
like,
down
you're
every
just,
5
he's like,
fucking
you're
seconds.
just slipping. And he's like, I know it's an emergency, but I'm just slipping. And he gets pretty close to the top one time, and Sanders reaches down and grabs him and pulls him in. So that's how he got into the thing, is he just kept trying until it worked, which I was like, you go, Teague. I like that guy.
No, the
And so,
determination is respectable.
yes. And so Sanders looks at him and is like, man, do you have any handcuffs? And Teague was like, no, I don't. And then he leans out the door and yells for a pair of handcuffs. Can you throw them up to me? So somebody throws him a pair of handcuffs. And in the video documentary I watched, it was pretty awesome because that's the point where Calloway starts screaming like a bitch when they like stood on his hands to get his wrist shackled or whatever. He's like, "You're hurting me," and I was like, "Really, dude? Like, what the fuck? Like, you've been in here swinging hammers around like fucking Super Mario,
You're in here
and
like the world's worst fucking blender. What do you mean now you're
yeah,
being hurt?
yeah, now you're gonna cry." That was just funny to me. And so at this point, like the paramedic starts checking people out. So he checks Peterson first because Peterson, remember, temporal artery ruptured. His ear's pretty well missing. It's hanging on there, but it's missing. And he barely has a pulse at this point. Like he's barely alive.
Right.
And so they
Definitely
get him
not
out of there.
having a good time. Like,
Yeah, and that was the flight engineer that was the first one to take the shot when the guy came in the door. And it was that first shot I think that fucked him up. But then they take Tucker out. Tucker obviously has a massive head injury. He's bleeding all over the place. The last person to leave the plane outside of Callaway, they keep him restrained, was Sanders. And he remembers looking out the door of the plane and just having this, what he described as the most euphoric feeling because he felt like his entire crew had cheated death, which I
right.
guess is true to a certain, I mean, yeah, that's pretty close.
Yeah, no,
That is pretty
definitely.
close. Yeah. So turns out Tucker, the co pilot, had bone chips driven into his brain that Peterson, the flight engineer, almost died just not only from the massive blood loss, but I mean, again, he had a ruptured artery and he was bleeding from the fact that his ear was just hanging by a chunk.
Right.
And so both of those guys are in critical condition and they get rushed to the hospital immediately. So Sanders gets in the ambulance with Tucker because this bad motherfucker just walked over there and got in the ambulance. And then he remembers looking at Tucker while he was in the ambulance and fully realizing how fucked up that dude was. Which I was like, dude, that's crazy. So they
Right.
restrain Calloway and they restrain Calloway and they take him actually to the same hospital. Which I'd be like, no, get that motherfucker into the hospital. Not even close to me. If I was Sanders, I'd be protesting that. You know what I mean? Like, don't even bring it. He's gonna be mad at us still.
You're right. Like,
I'm sure he holds a grudge. Well, I mean, if he can remember any of that, he holds a grudge. And so the question becomes like, what happened? Like, why did Calloway do that?
that's definitely my biggest question currently. Well, second biggest question. My first biggest question is still why do you need 8 fucking hammers? But
Well, I got my question that I'll ask at the end. So the reason Calloway did that was he was recently divorced. He was trying to support his ex-wife and his kids, doing the child support thing like he should. He was concerned about paying for his kids' college education because both of those kids apparently had not only the ability but the desire to go to Stanford. So they found in Calloway's belongings that he had brought on the plane with him a letter to his ex-wife, basically saying that he quote unquote lived for them, thought about them every day, and that he wanted his kids to have a better childhood than he did.
This
The
all
other thing
sounds
was that
this sounds nice, but then you realize what that
it
is
sounds like
in
a hog.
context, and it's like, oh well.
Yeah, no, yeah, we're getting to that part. I just love it. It's like a Hallmark card at this point, isn't it?
It's like the ending of a shitty Christmas movie. Where like,
Where everybody gets bludgeoned. I feel like it would star like Stone Cold Steve Austin or something.
he has
like what
in his guitar case?
No, this seems like a John Cena movie. John Cena should be Sanders.
My bottom line is you need to bring 3 to 16 hammers.
Exactly. Any number in between that is good, but at least 3, no more than 16. So the other thing was Calloway felt like his career was about to end because he was
I
literally.
fucking wonder why.
In the next few days, he was about to attend a hearing, and he was trying to defend himself to the company for giving falsified information about his flight experience. So he lied about his flight experience when they gave him the job, and they were finally calling bullshit on him. And he knew that, and he knew that hearing was coming up in a couple days. And so at this point, he's 42 years old. He's done. Like, he knows his job's done. He's divorced. He's lost his kids. He's lost his family. He's lost everything. So what he does at that point, right before he gets on this flight, he sends $54,000 to his ex-wife, and then also takes out $2.5 million in life insurance, which he knows if he dies at work is going to pay out the maximum. He picked the hammers because he knew. Okay, go ahead.
I feel like there's probably, now, don't get me wrong, I'm not, a life insurance suicide guide or anything, but I would imagine there's easier ways to go about, dying at work than a hammer fight in a plane. Like, I feel, just get your ass under a big ass pallet of some heavy ass dishwashers or something and have him fall on you. Like,
change jobs, bro. There's too many regulations for you to be able to do that in an airplane. You know what I mean? The reason he used the hammers was because it would be impossible to distinguish a hammer blow from the impact of a crash.
I don't think it would be, actually.
Whereas if he shot or stabbed or whatever, that was his theory anyway. And on the documentary I watched, there was an FBI guy that was like, it would be very hard to tell the difference.
It'd definitely be hard to tell the difference, but I feel like at the same time, if the crash, the crash is only going to hit so much of your body. Like, if you get...
Yeah, but you're probably going to be crushed, burned to death.
Wait, so the reason he brought that many hammers was to arm the other dudes?
I don't know why he brought that many hammers, honestly. I couldn't explain that to you, G. I wondered about that as well.
Is he still in prison? Can I write him a letter?
Hold on, we're getting to that. So the other thing he did was he changed his will to leave everything to his ex-wife, and he left it on his bed before he left. So he left it in a place that'd be easily found. And turns out, yep, he's the one that switched off the cockpit video recorder, or voice recorder, rather.
Well, yeah, that would be evidence that he was hitting people with hammers. Mm-hmm. Can't have that.
So when Peterson was in there at the very beginning, like, that's weird. Yeah, it was the dude that was sitting in the jump seat that just did that. So his plan, they suspect that he was trying to take the plane, he was going to turn it around and fly it back into the FedEx hub at Memphis Airport, which is huge, by the way. That would have killed so many people.
Also, if you're doing this for, like, your ex-wife and yourself at this point, because, actually, let's be honest, you're doing this for yourself because your ego's hurt. That's the only reason. If you're doing this for that reason, fucking nosedive it into a field in Iowa or some shit. Don't take out the fucking FedEx hub. You fucking troglodyte.
Fucking piece of shit, yeah. But he was pissed off at FedEx because they were about to... They don't know that for certain. Like, he never wrote that down. That was what they suspected his plan was because of when he did it. Like he did it as soon as they took off. He didn't wait. And so they thought that his proximity to the airport was a good indicator that that's where he was going to try to crash it. Again, all speculation. I don't know.
You know how
So the
many
whole thing,
lines in music we have about the fucking, like, postal worker shootings? If this one had succeeded, do you know how many shitty lines we'd have to hear about airplanes flying into the FedEx hub just because, like, 7 white
Auburn
dudes
Calloway
on
decided to be a
SoundCloud
dipshit.
couldn't think of anything more
Seven-
creative?
right? So the whole thing took about 30 minutes from the time that it started. It caused $800,000 worth of damage to the plane between all the blood stains, the ripped seat covers, the stabilizers about to come off, the damage to the wheels, which didn't explode but weren't in great shape.
I imagine, yeah.
So, you know, 800, almost $1 million worth of damage. In the end, Calloway went to court, and he pleaded temporary insanity, and they charged him with aircraft piracy, or I'm sorry, attempted aircraft piracy, which comes with a minimum of 20 years up to life in prison. So he pleaded temporary insanity at his trial, and the jury was like, nah, fuck that. No, he did it. And they found him guilty pretty much immediately.
I feel like
So
people overestimate how well the insanity plea works. That shit's only worked, like, what, 3 times?
3 times in the history of court ever. So on August 11th, 1995, just about a year and a half after that happened, Auburn Calloway was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. So as far as I know, yes, he is still alive, actually.
I'll write this motherfucker a letter asking him why he needed 18 hammers.
That's a good question. I hope you're listening right now.
If you
So the bottom
manage to
line
get
here-
access to the internet and your life sentence, please reach out. Email us at
So-
youdidthisforwhypod@gmail.com and tell us why you had 16 fucking hammers.
Please, Mr. Kelly, I'd love to know. So the bottom line here is all 3 of those guys that were on that FedEx crew are badasses, dude. I mean, 2 of them Navy pilot veterans, 1 of them a flight engineer that could take a licking and keep on ticking and keep his head.
I will say
obviously
the
we learned not a natural born killer because he was like, what? Hit him?
hit him with the hammer. I don't know, sir. I don't think I will do
Wait.
that.
He's hit me 27 times.
I don't know what a hammer is anymore.
So once they got him to the hospital, they realized Tucker, the co-pilot, the one that took the good shots at the dome, ended up with a hole in his skull about the size of a cowboy belt buckle.
God damn.
That's what it looked like when I saw the skull fracture. I was like, oh, that's about the size of one of those big ass vanity belt buckles. It's a big one.
It says Texas on the
So-
fracture and everything.
Right on the little plate. So they put a little plate in there. Was like, he came in here pretty much drooling, and now he had said that the guy could probably crush my hand with a handshake now. So he's fine. Like you're listening to him talk about it, he's fine. The only problem with him is none of these guys were ever considered medically fit to fly again
Well,
because they all had some kind of injury from that ordeal. And Tucker's was he had seizures, and then he's going to be on medication for the rest of his life. Like he's never getting off those.
Right. I mean, to be fair, if I'm on an airplane, I probably don't want the man with brain damage from a hammer flying the plane. But at the same time, I feel like these dudes probably could have flown a plane still.
Yeah, even in a cargo plane, I'm still not okay with that. Yeah. And so to end our story, on May 26, 1994, they were all awarded the Golden Medal Award for Heroism, which is the highest award that a civilian pilot can get. Once again, none of them were ever considered medically fit to fly again, but all of them have fond memories of flying, and they all consider themselves very lucky to be alive.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so that happened.
Has anyone asked Mark Wahlberg what he thinks about this? Because I know he said if he was on the planes during 9/11, it wouldn't have gone down that way. You think he could have handled this?
Oh shit, dude! I don't know, man. That
Well,
would
actually, to be fair,
probably
Calloway's not an old
Nope.
Vietnamese man, so I don't think he could have beaten him.
no, exactly, yeah. And then I think
That's
I
right,
think
Marky
Wahlberg
Mark.
would have
Fuck you.
taken
I'm coming after you now. I'm done with Mike
right,
Vick.
Marky Mark he'd have taken one to the dome immediately, and that's where he had the advantage. What my question is why after he's hammered all three of them, does he go back and get the spear gun?
Well, you got
If
to.
his plan,
I mean, I get
if
it.
his
He's
if his
trying to keep
plan's to take over
distance.
the plane,
It's the same reason you'd
yeah,
point a gun at a bank teller. It's a threat from a
but
distance. Like,
right, but you've got all three of them stymied already. If he just was to stand up there and just finish it, yeah, he'd have probably been able to do it.
well,
But
yeah,
it's the
but
point, I think, the whole thing flips when he tries to go get the spear gun, because at the beginning he had a 100% advantage.
I think if I'm putting
And
myself
I've wondered about
into
that, like why?
if I'm putting myself into the mindset of this guy, he's probably using the spear gun to make them do the flying. That way, because he's using hammers, so the impact covers the forensics
Once
of that up.
again,
If I'm assuming he's
he was a Navy pilot.
probably using the spear gun as like a distance, leverage threat, like, hey, do this or else you're taking a
Yeah,
spear to the chest. That way, when the crash does happen, the pilots are still in their seats where they should be, and he's not in the seat for whatever fucking reason.
that makes a lot of sense, and that also makes me give props to my boy Peterson for just grabbing the spear part of it,
He's just like, nah,
because
fuck this.
he's like, no, I ain't letting nobody get shot today. So
But
again, just crazy story, dude. I can't believe that actually happened on a plane. I cannot imagine that being my day at work. Just coming home, just look like you got in a fight with the devil.
and this happened in the '90s, right?
Yeah.
So before TSA and all that shit. So
What? Not. Yes. Yes.
that makes sense. Yeah. I was about to say,
Yep.
ain't no way in hell with TSA and the modern day regulations we have, you're getting 17 hammers and a spear gun in on a guitar case.
But they don't. They're not going to get checked as well. One of the things was that they're so screened. Like, it's one of the hardest screening processes in the world to be a commercial pilot.
Apparently not
And
hard enough.
in exact, but this is the only one I can think of, and this is a subject I love, that it was one of the crew that was involved in.
Right.
Usually it's somebody on the plane and the crew's trying to prevent it, almost always.
It's like DB Cooper or some shit. Like,
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was FedEx Express Flight 705. When I was looking into this whole subject, I found another one that I'm just going to touch on real briefly. It was a Pacific Flight 3701, and this was a reposition from Little Rock to Minneapolis. And so these two guys get on a commuter plane, which holds about 50 people. It's much smaller, much more maneuverable. And they decide while they're flying, since there's nobody on the plane, they take it up to the highest altitude that plane can handle, which is 41,000 feet. And so what happened is they got to the 41,000 feet, and in order to maintain that altitude, they had to keep the nose up. Well, the longer they kept the nose up and the more they turned the nose up, the more the wind or the more the aircraft speed decreased.
yeah, no, this definitely sounds like a stalling situation if I'm taking a guess.
And that's exactly what happened is the engine
Yeah.
stalled at 41,000 feet. What they didn't know, because they hadn't been trained on this, was that if they had just nosedived and let the wind come through the turbines, it'll actually help you with starting your engine.
Yeah, it's like a push start for a manual. Just
And so
get
what
that
ended
shit
up
moving.
happening was the engine got cold and locked up,
Well, yeah, you're at
because
40,000 feet. Like,
everything kind of shrinks a little bit, right? So they couldn't get the engines back on. And so they tried to maintain the nose up position for as long as possible, which, keep in mind, they're just losing speed the entire time they do that.
yeah, losing speed, not
And then they finally were
aerodynamic
like,
at all.
fuck, fuck this. And they started gliding. And they realized at this point that they're fucked. My favorite part in the story was once they hit 40,000 feet, 41,000 feet, that one of the pilots was like, let's see if we got any beer to celebrate this. And they couldn't find anything that wasn't locked up. So they just drank sodas instead. Anyways, they're coming down. They realize they're going to fall well short of the nearest airport. And the pilot's last words were, shit, I think we're gonna hit those houses, dude. That was his last words. And
You
they
know
did not.
what?
They did not, in fact, hit the houses. They clipped a tree with one of the wings, which tore it off and killed both of them instantly.
You
And in
know,
2004, they won a Darwin Award, which is the
tragic
award
as it
given
may
to the
be, they
stupidest self-caused death of the year.
definitely, definitely earned that Darwin Award.
Oh, man. So, yep, there's your hammer fighting an airplane for the week.
This
So, what do we got coming up?
I see. I've got an episode I'm working on. It's gonna be about Swedish drill music, so I hope y'all are ready for that. No, you didn't see that one
Oh,
coming.
I did not know.
I
No,
let's
and
see.
I only recently know what drill music is because I think you had exposed me to like King Vaughn, and I was like, "What the hell is that?" And
Oh
so,
yeah,
yeah,
no, it's
this should be interesting.
then
That was its own crazy story.
some of you may have noticed the gaming video up on the channel. We're gonna start doing those. But that's just gonna be me talking about what I'm working on while I'm playing some sort of horror game. We're doing Fear and Hunger right now, so if you
Nice.
want to see some fucked
What?
up RPG-ness, just
Yeah, it seems
look
like
at
a
that.
weird game, man. I was kind of digging it because it seems like one of those old like Dragon Warrior or something like the old RPGs where it's mostly text based.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely one of those games where as you go through it, you just keep asking the question, "What the fuck's going on? Why am I here?" But let's see. I think C has something in the works. We're not
Oh yeah,
too.
definitely. I've got I got a special one shot episode coming up that I think you'll like. All you true crime nerds will like it. So
But
we're
all
gonna
that being
present that in
said,
kind of a different way.
if you want to find us on Instagram, we're on there at You Did This for Why Pod. We're on YouTube. You Did This for Why Cast, I believe, is the at on that one. We're on Spotify. Apple Podcast, Amazon Music. We're on all that shit. Give us a listen on Spotify or whatever if you don't
All
fuck
that
with the
shit.
YouTube format. So
Right, right. And I just want to again say thank you to everybody that's listened. We definitely appreciate you just spending your time with us.
and if you feel like, supporting the channel or whatever, just leave a like, maybe watch the full video, subscribe, whatever you feel like doing. That being
Yeah,
said,
I don't feel
uh
like you have to smash the subscribe. It
that
seems
seems a
like
little
the
violent.
Auburn Cali way to go about that.
Yeah, it might be a little
Uh,
too Callaway, but
yeah,
you can tap it. That's not going to be
yeah.
frowned upon.
Give it
But
a gentle caress,
until next episode, we will see you next time, and have a good week.
I still haven't seen Alan Jackson around here anywhere, dude.